that one handy.
Okay, I'm gonna do that for you.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, yeah, that's very. Oh, probably down there, thanks. Oh, yeah, sorry. Hearing's a little sharp. I don't know if that's a problem.
There you go. Not one thing, it's another.
Yeah, it all adds up. That's part of what we're talking about today.
Yes, his wife.
Yes, yeah, Lynn
His
will handle
lovely
it.
wife is going to do it. Oh, good Lord.
Marilyn, it's good to see you. Oh, yeah, Lynn. Yeah, Lynn can explain. Oh, well, got an open mic here, I guess, whatever. Hello? Okay, gotta watch
Yeah,
it.
I'm doing it today.
Good morning.
By smiling.
How are you doing? Marilyn, how are you doing? Good. Oh, good.
This is so weird. Oh, I'm weird. You do that.
Anything in particular? Or?
Give us time to get back
Okay.
and forth. Get up sometime faster than we are. Yeah, everybody who
Well,
wants to stand up
he
and
wasn't
fiddle with their
physically
stuff.
able. He was there in spirit. Lynn was there. Lynn will tell you about it.
Have you done this before? No. Surprise, it's a surprise. So I'll play that all the way through.
Good morning. Good morning. I have to have my wife hurry up. She's a little slow. Yay! Okay, please rise in body and or spirit and sing number 1 in the great hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. Good morning. I'm Jackie, and I'll be your worship associate for this service. This service is being broadcast live on YouTube and will be available as a recording on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. This is probably a good time to turn off your phones. For those of you joining us virtually, you may wish to have a chalice or candle available for our chalice lighting ritual. We are using first names and last initials to protect our privacy. Welcome to those who are watching on YouTube, and welcome to all here at the fellowship. Yay, thank you. Each week we gather together, even as we are in many different places, and whether our sacred space be virtual or live. You are welcome here at UUFCC no matter who you are, your race, identity, no matter who you love, no matter where you came from, no matter your background or spiritual journey. We know you come here for different reasons. To find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truth, to ask questions, to nurture and be nurtured, to explore new ideas. We come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We trust you will find something that you need here: comfort, connection, challenge, and love. And we hope you will find ways to help others. If you are new here, please stand or wave as you are comfortable. And we'll have Doug bring the microphone, Nancy's bringing the microphone around. Anybody new?
Hello, I'm Nick.
Sorry, where are you from? Are you from here?
Yes, 12 years in Florida.
Welcome.
Getting pointed at.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Mickey. I've been living over on this side of the state for 3 years now. From Jupiter. Thank you.
I'm Karen from Florida. I've been here for 31 years. First time here, though, in this church.
Welcome.
Anybody else?
Can I raise my hand? Okay. We are glad you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us. I have much gratitude to everyone who has contributed to making today's service happen, including our greeters, the decorating team who make this space so beautiful, those working on the grounds that are looking great, and our tech team, Doug and Chip. Woohoo, hi! Our behind-the-scenes folks, our office, Anna and Sandy, worship associate, board, and cleaning folks. Those who are taking turns caring for us by making coffee, goodies, and cleaning up after the service, Aheen, Trudy, and Betty. And also for Margaret and the choir, and also for my lovely guest, Reverend Bob Murphy. Woo! Now we will have the prelude by Margaret. Margaret? Oh. Thank you, Margaret. Our chalice writing this morning is by Reverend Kathy LeBlanc, Chalice Lighting on Belonging. This isn't just a place of worship. This isn't just a fellowship of like minds. This isn't just a Sunday morning filled with spirit and topped off with coffee and cookies. Of course, we do have that. This is our church, our congregation, where we are building beloved community, where we are opening ourselves to each other, where we trust and love, rise and fall together. This is where we feel safe. This is where we know we are welcomed. This is where we belong. For this gift and for so many others, we light our chalice. Is AJ here? No AJ. Oh, who can I pick on now? Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. There's a young boy, young right there, that can do it. Young man, rise forth. Come this way.
All right, yay.
Thank you, Ellen. Now I'd like to recite our thing together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Now we're going to have Story of All Ages by Lori. Anyone want to come up here and sit in the front? Come on, ladies, gentlemen, young ladies, young men. Oh, good. Okay, I'll have to do it then. I know.
I'm actually going to go right here. This is called Walking with the Wind. This true story was adapted by Reverend Karen G. Johnston, but comes to us from John Lewis, a great leader in this nation who died in July 2020, only 5 years ago. Many people were sad to lose him and thankful for all he has done to bring about justice in our nation. He had lived a long and full life, asking of himself and asking all of us to show up for justice and to do what we can and just a little bit more to make sure there was more fairness in our country. John Lewis grew up in a large family, and he would spend time with his aunts or uncles and with his siblings and cousins. There were many children in the neighborhood, and they would play together. This was long before the pandemic, so people could play together and hang out together. Mr. Lewis tells about a time when he was playing outside his Aunt Seneva's house with about 14 other children when a storm, a big storm, arrived. A kind of storm that made him very afraid. I'm going to tell the story from his perspective, so it's like he is talking. So when I say I, it really means Mr. John Lewis. Here's how it went. Aunt Seneva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with all those children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house began to shake. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend, and then a corner of the room started to lift up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. This storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky, with us inside it. That was when Aunt Seneva told us to clasp hands, line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk in a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house, we walked. The wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction. Another end of the house began to lift. And so it went back and forth. 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. Can you imagine what it was like to be inside of that house, afraid that it might fall apart from the destructive wind and rain, from the whole storm? I'm so glad that John Lewis wasn't alone and that he was there with his friends and his family. I'm so glad they figured out a way to work it out together. When John Lewis was much older and was writing down the story of his whole astounding life, he wrote these words: "More than half a century has passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over those very years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds, by the storm, one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they would fall apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s, at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together, and they did the best that they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle, and the house would still stand. And we did, and we still do, all of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind. Thank you for listening to not my story, but Mr. John Lewis' story. The big kids are having trouble.
I'm okay. Oh, I'm too old for that.
I don't think so.
Whew. Please rise in body and spirit and sing hymn 1031 in the teal hymnal, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Since this is a Buddhist mantra, I'm going to be accompanying it with a harmonium, which is a traditional instrument for Buddhist and Hindu music. And on the second verse, when we say, "May you be filled with loving kindness," we're going to put down our books and turn to your neighbor and just bow. Okay, and then we go back. Oh. All righty. Okay, so it's, may I be filled, may you be filled, may we be filled, may all be filled. Okay, and everything else is the same. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all
The opening words this morning are from Reverend Scott Taylor.
Can't hear it.
Oh, is the mic on? Chop, chop. Thank you, Chip. May this honored hour become that path which brings us back to our center, back to the place of belonging. Be what is true, what is deepest within, and what knows us even before we know ourselves. In this space, may we come to remember that we are held and welcomed whole, without any need to hide or withhold a single piece or part of who we are. It is a tradition here that we have our Book of Life, which offers you the opportunity to share your joys, sorrows, and life milestones with the rest of us by writing them in the red book, which Joseph will bring up. Are there any entries, Joseph? Oh, good. It was amazing to be with 5,000 like-minded people standing for justice. We are part of a global movement by Linda. Yes, it was so much fun. And I have to say, Lori showed me from all over the country, people were standing up and saying, "No king." And there was people in Germany, in 3 different cities in Germany, that were holding up signs, "No king." I thought it was fantastic. Anyway, I'm sorry. I get so excited. Okay. We also embrace the tradition of dropping stones in the bowl. The water symbolizes the community, and the stones represent your joy or sorrow. This is a time to briefly share that which is most sacred to you. There will be a time for announcements later in the service. Please be aware we are creating a permanent record of these moments on YouTube. I invite you to come forward and drop a stone either in silence or briefly aloud.
This is a joy. I'm happy about an event associated with my daughter, who, as I get older, is more and more fixed in my mind, is that little blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl riding her tricycle. She is now an associate professor at Case Western Medical School.
is a stone of concern for Marvin until he comes back with us. I know he's in our hearts. We need to keep him there.
This beautiful song we just sang was Yesterday. All of you who were at either marvelous event know loving kindness. If our hearts are filled with love, there is no room for hatred.
Yes, right on.
Yes, hi. My name is Carlos. I'm back after a long summer up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Jamaica. Yeah, doing music and spending time with my significant other, with my girlfriend. I'm back, and just in case I have a set of furniture that if anybody can use it, I'm donating it. I have my number there. You can call me, and all you have to do is pick it up.
Hello, I have lots of joys today. First, all my parents are here, my mother-in-law and my mom and dad, to worship with us, so it's good to have them here. And also, it's my wife's birthday, it's Jessica's birthday, so I saw you guys brought an October birthday cake. We call us October babies. I'm an October baby too. So, lots of joys today. Thanks.
Hi. I just love living here. There's so many, this church is a wonderful community. Yesterday, I ran with a group called Running Chicks, and I added an extra half mile, which almost did me in. I felt really good, and I felt hydrated and everything, but then I went to the rally. That was another mile and a half walking around, finding all the UU people. That was great. It was just a little concerning. There was an individual that came and walked among us that was just kind of checking us out, but we found later that he was carrying. But luckily it was peaceful. And then after that, I volunteered at the Pride group. And I was standing. I mean, this is a lot of standing, but I've always walked and stand. I have a big endurance. And all of a sudden, I felt I was going to faint. And I sat down because I just heard another story of somebody else in the running group that just fainted and shattered her elbow and whatever. So I knew to sit down. And I thought, I really need some water, but I just ran out. And I couldn't imagine going across and getting it. So I went to the VIP tent, and they got paramedics and all the whole thing. And I didn't have to go to the hospital, yippee! But I told my older sister, who tends to always lecture me, and she's like, when are you going to learn? Never. I love being with groups of people. I love being out there and helping the botanical garden. I just did a lot of volunteer week this week, but when they asked me to help in the parking lot of the Military Museum last night, I said, absolutely not. Thanks.
Good morning, I'm Patrick E., and I wanted to have a joy. Yesterday, like Jane said, was the PFAG Port Charlotte Pride event, and I appreciate everybody who came out, the UU table there, support, and there was like 45 vendors there. It was a great, great turnout. So thank you all for helping.
This isn't the last stone. This stone is, Lori read to me what the Pope said about Christians, and I just wanted to say, yes! Woo! Excuse me. No, one more stone. Woo! One more stone. This last stone represents unspoken joys and sorrows in our hearts. May we hold these and each other in love and tenderness, so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. I'll take a moment of silence, please. And you may wish to close your eyes or not for a few minutes of meditation while Margaret plays some gentle meditation music. Now it is my extreme pleasure to have our guest speaker, Reverend Bob Mersey, speak on evil and all kinds of stuff, or love and all kinds of stuff.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you, Jackie and Margaret and Lori and everybody else, Doug, everybody who's helped to make this service possible. We're learning more and more these days. When I say we, I mean the Unitarian Universalists, about this idea of shared ministry, how it is we all come together, young and old, to create the beloved community. It's not always easy, and that is one of the things we'll talk about today. But we recognize that the beloved community is a community. It's not the work of one person. It's the work of many people. That's what happens on Sunday mornings. It happens on Saturdays, apparently. And we try to be together as a family. Now, some of you are going to go home and you're going to say, well, what did that minister talk about today? Can you sum it up in a couple of minutes? That sort of thing happens with families, you know. Maybe people have been out playing golf or watching TV or whatever, and they just want a quick summary. So I'll give you the summary up front. Now, the minister's going to talk about 3 things in particular, and then something else. I'm going to say a little bit about Halloween. It's not really a Halloween service, but I'll say a few words about Halloween, what's really going on in this season. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper, and we'll talk about transformation and subliminality and liminality and all of these threshold things, the process of transformation. In particular, we're talking about spiritual transformation. And then we're going to get to this topic of evil. And I'm not sure whether evil really exists as an objective force or not, so I'm not prepared to answer that question. But we're going to look at 3 authors coming out of the liberal tradition who confronted the problem of evil. And sometimes that's unusual for those of us in the liberal tradition. We like to be very generous, you know, we're humanists, you know, we're very kind to each other. At least we want to be kind to each other. We want to do the right thing. And evil can be an embarrassment, can be hard to confront, to say this is wrong. This is wrong, whatever it is we're pointing at. So we'll say a little bit about that, and as I mentioned, 3 authors in particular coming out of the liberal tradition have had to deal with this dilemma. What is evil? Does evil exist? And if so, if it does exist, how can it be overcome? First of all, I'm going to say just a few words about Halloween. Halloween really comes from, well, a whole combination of ancient traditions. It goes so far back that nobody knows when they began. We often identify Halloween, we being Unitarian Universalists, with Celtic traditions. So we talk about Celtic paganism and things like that. And of course, you have a pentacle posted here, together with other religious symbols. But nobody's really sure when and how this tradition began. There's lots of theories. And the Celtic tradition, well, there's really two explanations. I'll give you the simple one first. There's the understanding that there is the cycle of the seasons, and darkness turns to light, and then light, of course, then turns back into darkness, and this cycle is repeated forever, presumably, year after year after year, and it's presumably always been this way. In the Celtic tradition, there are many holidays that could be mentioned. I won't give you the long list. There's a total of 8. But there's 2 in particular that get mentioned, well, sometimes by Unitarian Universalists. Beltane is identified with May Day, May 1st, and that's a time in the spring when we realize that days are, well, they become longer. We go out into the light. There's often early morning celebrations on May Day, sometimes dancing, all kinds of outdoor rituals. And we're aware that the summer solstice will soon be here in a matter of weeks. So that's what May Day or Beltane is really all about. It's balanced by another holiday in the fall, and that, in the Celtic tradition, is called Samhain, S-A-M-H-A-I-N, Samhain. It's pronounced a little bit differently. There are different Celtic cultures, different tribes, if you want to use that expression. They're always a little bit different. Samhain is what we recognize in this country as Halloween, which comes from a Scottish term, which really means it's the eve of All Hallows Day. All Hallows Day is November 1st, so it's the eve, well, it's the eve of a holy day, Halloween. Both of these dates, both of these holidays are times of transformation. And this is where things get a little more complicated. It's not just that we're on the circle that goes round and round year after year, but there is a process, hard to explain, but I'm going to reach for one of the Celtic symbols. This has been around for thousands of years. It's the triple spiral, and you'll find this at places like Newgrange, which is an ancient memorial in Ireland, which is perhaps 3,000 years old. And you'll find this in other places, but the spiral design, which represents motion, transformation, and the triple design, which is interpreted in different ways. I'm just going to put this aside. Some people will say it's past, present, future. Others will say it represents earth, sky, water. Feminists will often say it represents maiden, mother, crone, 3 stages of life. And there are other interpretations of why this triple design. And of course, the shamrock preserves or continues the tradition. And shamrocks are often identified with the coming of Christianity to Celtic lands, St. Patrick and others. But actually, that shamrock design has been around long, long before the Christians appeared in Western Europe. Transformation is what this is really all about, and it can be a process of growth. We hope that it's a process of growth, so we're not just doing the same thing over and over and over again. We're changing. We're not always aware of it. That's why we use this expression, subliminal. We're not always fully aware of what is going on, but we know that something is happening. And we recognize change within ourselves. We talk about rites of passage, that sort of thing. Growing older, perhaps growing wiser. We hope we grow wiser. We also talk about changes in the larger society. So we can talk about cultural changes, economic changes, political. But But something is happening. The old ways of doing things, they're falling apart, or they're being dismissed, whatever. We know that something is happening in this country right now. Certainly we can see that in politics, but it goes a lot deeper than politics. This culture is not what it was 20, 30 years ago. It's becoming something new, and we're not sure why and how. And of course, as responsible people, we're worried. Are we moving in the right direction? Where's this spiral dance taking us? The spiral is often perceived of as a kind of dance, by the way, and there are dances in Celtic traditions that are supposed to represent the spiral. Are we moving in the right sort of way? We worry about the problem of evil, and I'll come back to that in a second. The problem of evil. Does evil exist? Well, we're not really sure. In ancient times, there was belief in monsters, devils, demons, that sort of thing, that evil was an objective force, that you could go out there and find evil and clearly identify it. Some people still believe in that sort of thing. Perhaps you do. Others will say they're not so sure. Maybe there is no objective evil in the world. Maybe it's just something that very subjective, something that each person has their own opinion about what's right, what's wrong. Maybe there's nothing definite. Maybe life is meaningless. Some people go towards what's called nihilism. There is no meaning, no particular plan, no particular purpose. In the end, whether evil exists or not is something you have to struggle with. And I'm going to mention 3 people coming out of the liberal tradition who've tried to explain the process of transformation. And each author, there were 3 writers, has had to deal with evil in their own particular way. 2 of these authors, by the way, are Unitarians, or were Unitarians. This was before the days, they became Unitarians before the days when we were the Unitarian Universalist Association. Now, the first author I'm going to mention who had to struggle with the problem of evil is a name that I think most of you are familiar with. Rod Serling. Okay. How many of you can remember Rod Serling? All right. Twilight Zone. Is there anybody who can't remember? Maybe some of the younger people don't know Rod Serling. Rod Serling was indeed a Unitarian. He wasn't a Unitarian in his early life. He was actually born in Syracuse, New York in 1924 into a Reformed Jewish family that was not really particularly religious. Like all of you, because I'm talking to an audience, a congregation of older people mostly, his life was transformed at several critical points. And the big transformation was World War II. It was a horrible experience for a lot of people, and I have known some of them. Rod Serling was a teenager in Binghamton, New York. He always identified Binghamton as his hometown, even though he'd been born in Syracuse. And like my Uncle Al and a number of young people, he was, including my stepmother Jane, actually, he wanted to enlist in the war effort when he was in high school. And coming out of a Jewish family, he wanted to go to Europe, and he wanted to defeat the Nazis. The first day after his graduation from high school, he enlisted, and he joined the United States Army, and it was a very difficult experience. It was a horrible experience. He went into what became a parachute regiment, wanted to go to Europe, didn't go to Europe, went to New Guinea instead, later the Philippines, and in his memoirs, he talks about some of the things that happened. He saw his best friend killed in front of him during, ironically maybe, a small production, a comedy production that they were performing for troops in the field. And suddenly they were attacked. He saw other things, and he himself was severely wounded, went through recovery, went back to the front lines, was wounded again, did survive the war, engaged in a lot of very dangerous behavior after that. He volunteered for some assignments, even after the war, that were very risky. And he had nightmares for the rest of his life. And he said that's part of what his series, The Twilight Zone, is really all about. It's based, much of it, not entirely, but much of it, on flashbacks, nightmares, personal experiences. The second transformation, big transformation in his life, was because of the GI Bill. He was able to go to college. He went to Antioch, which of course is an historic Unitarian, now Unitarian Universalist school, and he became a Unitarian. And he found some comfort and support in that tradition. Stayed with it in California, and of course he went out west to become a writer, a very successful writer. He joined the Santa Monica UU congregation, was a very active member, and also very active in social justice work. Great supporter of the ACLU, was involved with the NAACP during the 1960s, very active in the anti-war movement, and died in 1970. But I think if he were with us today, I think he'd applaud much of what this congregation is doing. Rod Serling. The Twilight Zone, well, it deals with this theme of transformation. Most episodes, when you think about them. Again, I'm going to assume that you're familiar with the Twilight Zone. Typically something strange has happened or it is about to happen, and the characters involved are not really sure what's going on. Although typically at the end of each episode we have a better understanding. A better understanding of what we have just seen, what it is we have just experienced. I'm going to read, this is one of the introductions to the Twilight Zone. There were several introductions, but this one I think you can appreciate because it deals with this concept of liminality, threshold moments when we cross from this experience to something very different. I think you'll remember these words. There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination, and it is an area which we can call the Twilight Zone. Now, when you understand what Rod Serling means by that, when you understand the Twilight Zone, and you understand what this is all about, the Twilight Zone is that time of transformation when we go from what is familiar to what is about to happen, and we're at the threshold, and we're not really sure what's going on, but we know something is happening. And you don't have to be Irish or Scottish to understand this transformation process. Rod Serling was asked, "Do you believe in God?" And he said, "Yes, I believe in God, but I don't worry about God. I worry about humanity." And he said in one interview, "The ultimate obscenity is not caring. It's the refusal to do something when you know what's happening and you have the ability to make things better. and you hesitate. Evil, said Rod Serling, is the final retreat into nihilism and narcissism. And that's how Rod Serling identified evil. It's the moment when we just don't care anymore, and we just retreat into ourselves and into this sense or this assertion that nothing really matters. Maybe it's just an illusion. Maybe it's just transitory. When we stop caring, says Rod Serling, then we've entered into something that is truly evil, in his opinion. Now, the second author I mentioned, another great Unitarian author who you're all familiar with, is Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, he was one of the transcendentalists, so we're talking about people like Thoreau, Emerson, and there were others. Most of the transcendentalists are very optimistic. Okay, I see progress, progress, progress. Emerson's always a great believer that things are just going to get better and better and better. It's called Emersonian optimism, you know. Hawthorne's very different because Hawthorne is aware of the problem of evil and of tragedy that exists in the world. Something is not quite right. We're not always sure why and how Hawthorne got to be this way, but it's a theme that's reflected in many of his stories. It's really the theme that goes with Scarlet Letter, for example. You all know that story from high school. Something is not right in this picture. There's too many secrets, too many people pretending to be something other than what they really are. So Hester's husband, for example, has reappeared in the story, but he doesn't acknowledge that he's still alive, still present, who he really is. And of course, the minister has something to conceal. And we're not really sure about Hester, what she thinks. And that's what's going on in the Scarlet Letter. But there are other stories that Hawthorne presents that go even deeper. People who don't really know who they are or what they're in the process of becoming. Some of the stories that Hawthorne tells are based on family tragedies. The classic is Young Goodman Brown. You go and read that story. It's about family tragedy because Hawthorne comes from an old New England family. One of his ancestors, William Hawthorne, had been a judge. He prosecuted Quakers. He had Quakers whipped in the streets of Salem. One of his ancestors had gone off to fight in the Indian Wars, had burned down Indian villages in Rhode Island and other places. And then there was William Hawthorne, who was one of the judges at the Salem witch trials. Some of the judges later confessed and relented and begged for forgiveness, and William Hawthorne never did. He was convinced that there really were witches out there and that he'd been able to find them, and he had no regrets at all about what he had done. And this family history troubles Hawthorne, Nathaniel Hawthorne, a great deal. And in Young Goodman Brown, he has a character who in some ways resembles Hawthorne himself, who goes out into the world and discovers the evil that really exists in his own town, in his own family, with people who he respects, admires, wants to follow. And there's something tragic present in Salem. And that's what Young Goodman Brown is all about. And at a critical moment, he meets the devil himself, Satan himself. Satan turns out to be Young Goodman Brown. He's basically looking at a reflection of himself. The third author I mentioned understood that last point very well. She wasn't a Unitarian or a Unitarian Universalist. I'm referring to Hannah Arendt. How many of you know Hannah Arendt? Yes? Okay, a couple of people do. She's one of the great writers of the 20th century. She's born into a liberal Jewish family, not particularly religious family, in Germany very late in the 1800s. And she doesn't go in search of evil the way young Goodman Brown does. Evil comes to her because of the Holocaust. She has to leave Germany to escape the Nazis, and she spends the rest of her life trying to understand what happened, what went wrong. And she says in some of her writings, confronting evil in our time is going to be the great challenge for the rest of the 20th century, for everybody to try to understand what went wrong. She doesn't try to define evil in her writings, but she says she's seen enough of the world to know that evil exists, even though she can't fully explain it. This is part of what she says, and I'm going to summarize. Evil, says Hannah Arendt, exists when people no longer care about each other. Evil, says Hannah Arendt, exists when people refuse to think things through. When people refuse to engage in critical thinking. And she says something which I find very interesting. When people can no longer distinguish fact from fiction. She said a number of things that I think are very timely. And this is back, by the way, in the late 1940s, early 50s. It's not just that they can't distinguish fact from fiction. They don't seem to care about what's true and what's not true. It just doesn't seem to bother some individuals anymore. Evil, says Hannah Arendt, exists when people simply believe what they want to believe. Evil exists when people no longer accept responsibility for their actions. Now, in 1961, when Adolf Eichmann is on trial, you all know about Adolf Eichmann, Nazi war criminal brought to justice in Jerusalem. She's one of the reporters who goes to Jerusalem to report on the trial because she's trying to understand this guy, Eichmann. How did he become Adolf Eichmann, war criminal? And he turns out, and this is what surprises her, in many ways to be a rather ordinary, and terrifies her, to be a rather ordinary individual. She expects somebody demonic, satanic, who's going to rage and rant, you know. He's not like that at all. He turns out to be someone who simply no longer accepts responsibility for his actions. He simply says, well, I was under orders. I was following the law. You know, I was an army officer. I was told to do this. You want to blame somebody? Well, I suppose you could blame Hitler or somebody else. Don't blame me. It wasn't my responsibility. And when you confront that reality, says Hannah Arendt, you're facing evil. It's hard to define, but it's something you have to be aware of. Hannah Arendt talks about what she calls the banality of evil, and I think it's what Hawthorne was talking about also. This awareness that ordinary people we respect, admire perhaps, even ourselves are capable of horrendous crimes. It could be any one of us. And that, says Hawthorne, and that, says Hannah Arendt, is truly frightening. Rod Serling, I think, may have accepted that reality too, without defining evil, to understand that it's always present. It's within us, and that's scary, truly scary. Hawthorne has any number of stories that deal with this reality. Some are comic. Feathertop is a story about a witch, Old Mother Rigby, who creates a scarecrow. He goes out into the larger world. Essentially has created kind of a monster, but this is a rather kindly monster. This is a comic story. Everybody loves Feathertop. They admire him, He becomes a very prestigious individual until one day he confronts himself in the mirror and he realizes he's nothing. Nothing at all. And when that happens, he collapses from the tragedy, goes home, and Old Mother Rigby says, "You've discovered too much too soon. You can't handle it." So he goes back to being a scarecrow. But there are other stories that are a lot darker than Feathertop. Ethan Brand is the one that I mentioned today. Ethan Brand is a story about, everybody assumes he's a madman. He shows up, there's a mountain in the Berkshires, Mount Greylock. He suddenly appears to the crowd. He's ranting and raving that he has found the unforgivable sin, the unpardonable sin. People assume this guy's a lunatic. He says, "I was once among you, I've gone into the larger world, and I have found what is unforgivable, unpardonable. And now I come back in the hope of finding solace, perhaps, in this place." People think he's crazy, and he dies. Hawthorne said this is the first in a series of 3 stories, but he never wrote the other 2. So what is the unforgivable sin? What is it that Ethan Brand can't explain? So I, Bob Murphy, went in search of the unforgivable sin. I really did. I researched this at great length, and this is the best I can do to explain it. The poet Dante Alighieri said that when you get to hell, you're not going to go to hell. You're all universalists, so you don't believe in such things. Over the entryway to hell are the words, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." You're familiar with that? You remember Dante? Okay. When you abandon hope, then you believe that evil, that doesn't exist, good doesn't exist, things really can't get any better, we're just sort of stuck with the way things are. When you're just sort of carried along by whatever forces exist in nature, then you have fallen into evil ways. Every religion, all the religions are all different, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, they're all different in different ways, but they all agree on certain essentials. Okay. That we need to accept responsibility for our actions, that free will does exist. We can make decisions, we can change our ways, we can learn, we can grow, we can improve our lives, we can improve the lives of others. Every great religion agrees on these things, that there is hope for humanity. And that's something that's widely shared throughout the world. Except there are people who deny such things. And perhaps you've met some of them. And some of them are called nihilists. Rod Serling used that term. And a nihilist will tell you, there is no hope. There is no goodness, there's no evil. Things just are the way they are. We're just sort of carried along. Free will, that's an illusion. And we just sort of stumble from one event to another. When you accept that, I don't know if that's the unforgivable sin or not, or the unpardonable sin. You can decide that if you want to decide such things. But it certainly takes us towards something that really is, it's beyond demons, beyond monsters. Something that really does seem, I'm going to say troubling. Maybe that's the unforgivable sin. To abandon hope and to fall into such places. But of course, we're good liberals, so I leave it to you to decide for yourself. You can decide whether evil exists, and if so, how it can be overcome. But Hannah Arendt had her own suggestions at the end. She said, We overcome evil and what is sinister through compassion. That's a word you've heard recently. Through acts of kindness, love, concern, caring, critical thinking. Critical thinking, being aware of ourselves, accepting ourselves, perhaps forgiving ourselves, but just trying to do the right thing. And by these means, through this process, said Hannah Arendt, perhaps we can overcome evil. We don't abandon hope, and like the scarecrow, we don't just collapse when we see ourselves in the mirror. We don't just give up. Scarecrows may do that, but we're better than that. Okay. We find ways to make progress as best we can during times of transformation. We're not sure what's about to happen next, but we have a desire to do the right thing, and that's what really matters, perhaps. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you for mercy. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you, congregation.
Wow. In the tradition of Unitarian Universalists, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. We have several ways you can give. In the basket being passed around, with the Venmo app made to UUFCC offering, you can mail a check to the office. If you are here for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. You are our guest today. We will now accept the offering. Thank you for your support of this fellowship. We really appreciate that. Now it's time for the life of the community. It's time to highlight UUFCC's events and activities. The back of the order of service has this week's calendar. Also, the weekly update has a calendar, so check that as well. And one thing I'm going to say about the announcements today, it's birthday Sunday. Susie, Kathy, Mike, Reverend Ann, Jessica, and her husband. Whoa, I didn't know about that. Happy birthday. Now, Linda, would you like to come up?
I have two announcements. One is the NAACP General Membership Meeting happens this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Cooper Street Rec Center. If you're a member, you're obviously welcome. If you're not a member, you're still welcome. We'd love to have you come and join us. In addition, a second announcement is there are prayer vigils that are being held each Sunday evening outside the Everglades Detention Center. And I plan to attend this evening. I'll be leaving at 2 o'clock. The vigil starts from 5, it goes till 6, and then we return, so the time would be around 9 p.m. If anyone is interested in joining me, please see me after the service in the back in the hall. Thank you.
Thank you.
I take it there's another announcement, Randy?
This is a friendly reminder that we have a sign-up sheet for the Veterans Day Parade that we are going to participate in. Our values will be announced as we, I guess, approach a certain part of the parade route. It's probably like a 1.5 mile walk. I kind of promised we would have 14 people there. I think we have 2 or 3. So I have a sign-up sheet on the bulletin board outside. You're welcome to take it down, add your name to it, maybe even a friend's name or a family member or whatever, and join us. I think we have to be in positions by 8 a.m. So 7:45 would be a good time to be there. This is at the Charlotte Beach Park, at the end of Harbor Boulevard. So that's where we're going to start. And then it ends at the Veterans Memorial Park that is on Edgewater. All right, please join us. Yeah, that's the 11th. It's Tuesday morning, 11th of November.
We have blessings that shall follow us by Rebecca Savage. As we end our time together today in spiritual community, may we depart this sacred space, knowing that blessings shall follow us all the days of our lives if we live in and return to right relationships, if we extend grace and forgiveness to ourselves and others, if we behold mercy as a spiritual superpower, if we emanate that the greater love that holds us close. May our lives radiate the blessings that we've been given. May kindness and compassion fall gently from us. May there be peace in the world, and may it begin with us. Now, extinguishing the chalice by Craig Rowland. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain with us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. If each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way. Now, will that young man please come out and extinguish the chalice? Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you. Okay. Please recite our affirmation. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May these ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Now please, I'm sorry. Please rise in body and or spirit in hymn number 95 in the great hymnal, There Is More Love Somewhere. And now we will have the benediction by Reverend Murphy.
Please be seated. Okay. I'm seated. You should be seated. Okay. In this place, if you have found freedom, take it with you into the larger world. In this place, if you have found comfort, go and share it with others. In this place, if you have dreamed dreams, help one another so that the dreams may come true. In this place, if you have known love, give it back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace, go in love. May all of us become the good ancestors for future generations. Blessed be.